everyone, I'm Special Projects Director Michaela Blanton, and today I'm going to share with you a few facts about the 6th Congressional District of Colorado. Rather than just spitting facts at you, I thought we'd play a game. 2 truths and a lie. Here we go. 1. The 6th Congressional District has been called Colorado's Silicon Valley. 2. It's the home of the 2nd largest IKEA in the country and the first IKEA in Colorado. Or 3. It's located on the traditional and indigenous lands and territories of the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Pueblo, Shoshone, and Ute peoples. If you guessed 1, 2, and 3, you're right. I know, we tricked you a little. The 6th District is a quickly growing, very popular part of the state. For example, in Centennial, homes were selling faster here than anywhere else in the country in 2015, despite the fact that counties and cities throughout the district have had to launch educational campaigns on how to deter coyotes from eating pets. While I'm not sure that the 6th District is for me, there is one thing that it has going for it. Its representative, Congressman Jason Crow. When he's not hunting coyotes, this first Democrat to represent the district can be found advocating for affordable housing and taking action on climate change. We sat down with Representative Crow to ask him about this and other science, policy, and society issues in his district and his role as its representative. Why don't you start by just telling me a little bit about the 6th Congressional District of Colorado?
Yeah, well, so I'm the congressman for Colorado's 6th District. We have 7 districts in Colorado. My district is the most diverse district in terms of the population that's foreign born. We actually one of the more diverse districts in the nation. About 20% of the people that I represent were born outside of the United States. And we have over 160 languages spoken in our district. So people come from all over, from Africa, Middle East, Asia, Central America, South America. It's truly an incredible place to be because the diversity and the cultures from everywhere make us a very strong and vibrant community. In addition to that, we have a lot of small businesses, a lot of restaurants, but a lot of aviation and aerospace and high technology businesses as well. And then we're also home to the Anschutz Medical Campus, one of the largest biomedical research campuses and hospital campuses in the country, and Buckley Air Force Base.
Wonderful, thank you. As a representative of the 6th District, what do you view as your top priority?
Well, making sure I'm the voice of the community, right? I take very seriously my obligation to be, as the name implies, the representative, right? If you really actually just think about the job, my job is to represent the morals and the values and the voice and the priorities of my community in Washington, D.C. And that's extremely important. That means I have to be out in the community a lot. I have to listen a lot. I have to learn a lot. I have to be out everywhere talking to lots of different groups. And I represent a wide array of folks, not just from different cultures and backgrounds, but also different politics. I represent almost as many Republicans as I do Democrats. So it's important that I am listening a lot and hearing about people's priorities and then bringing that to Washington.
Sure. So I'd like to dive into some of those priorities and values that you're talking about. Your district houses some pretty neat renewable energy technology companies and centers, including the Aurora campus for renewable energy and Solar Tech, which is the largest test facility for solar technologies in the world. Do you think that moving away from fossil fuels is something that's important to the constituents of your district?
Well, it's undoubtedly important. And we have a climate crisis. And that's, I think it's important that we use that term because it is a crisis. This is existential for humanity and for the planet. We are out of time to deal with it. So we have to be very aggressive. So we have to be very proactive on climate. So that's why I have made addressing the climate crisis a priority, because it is a priority for the community that I represent. But, I also am a father. I'm also somebody that understands that we're going to turn over a world that's in crisis and a planet that's suffering to our children and grandchildren, and we have to act now. So I've been working very hard to help catalyze renewable energy projects that transition to cleaner, more sustainable sources of energy and making infrastructure investments to do that. But also as a member of the Armed Services Committee, make sure that the Department of Defense is transitioning far more rapidly to these renewable energy sources, because it's better for the environment. It's actually better for our national security, and it saves taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars if we do it right. So I've been working hard on that effort.
Thank you. I have a more personal question about how you're perceived in your district. Which do you think you're better known as? A congressman or the husband of the great CU Denver professor Desiree Crowe?
Undoubtedly the latter.
How does that make you feel?
Is there any doubt in my mind as to I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind here.
Great. So part of your district, as you touched on, it's known as being a haven for refugees, and it's considered one of the most diverse parts of the state as such. Can you speak to some of the varied interests and concerns of people in your district?
Yeah. So, but first of all, I touched on the small business issue before. You know, we small businesses are the lifeblood of our community and our economy. They employ the vast majority of people in our district. They support the families of our district. And one of the reasons for that is because immigrants and refugees tend to be entrepreneurs. They come here, they have entrepreneurial spirit, they work extremely hard, and they start their own small businesses. So we have businesses across the district that are owned and operated by immigrants and refugees, people that have come here to start a new life, and our economy is better off for it. Our community is more vibrant and more interesting as a result of it. But making sure that we address small business issues, particularly during the pandemic, is extremely important. And I sit on the Small Business Committee here in Congress. I'm actually the only member of Congress from Colorado that sits on the Small Business Committee. So I have worked really hard during the pandemic to get PPE funding, disaster loan funding, and other programs to keep those small businesses going. The second is making sure that I push back on dangerous and harmful rhetoric against our immigrants and refugees, because we've had a period the last few years where there's been extremely negative rhetoric coming from the highest offices of the land that demonizes and tries to vilify our immigrants and refugees. And I just stand up all the time and push back on that. And I'm very vocal that is not who we are as a country and society. And I take that obligation very seriously. And then the third is working to reform our broken immigration system. It's badly broken. I believe that our immigration system should be based on keeping families together. I think it's really important. And I represent tens of thousands of people that are trying to reunify their families, but they can't do so because there's no pathway for folks to do that in this broken system. And we would be far better off as a country and a community and as an economy if we had a system that actually did that. So those are just a few that take up a lot of my time.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I have to ask, when it comes to connecting with people in your district and communicating, especially with refugees and immigrants, are you bilingual?
I'm not. I took 4 years of Spanish in college, and it did not stick very well.
All right. If you were to learn a language now, which would it be? We got Karenni.
It would be Spanish. I do have a background in it. I can speak a very basic Spanish on occasion, but it's not where I would like it to be. So I could probably pick that back up and do that if I had the time.
A linguist and a congressman. Way to go.
Right.
All right. Speaking of connecting with people in your district, do you participate in any Wild West activities such as line dancing or horseback riding?
Well, it's really interesting you should say that. First off, we frequently before the pandemic would go to Frontier Days up in Wyoming. We go to the National Western Stock Show frequently as a family and spend time doing that as a family. But I learned an interesting lesson that I probably should have learned a while ago, just a few weeks ago. I have this habit on Friday nights. I'm kind of a whiskey drinker. And on Friday nights, I sit back and decompress after a challenging week and have a glass of whiskey. A couple nights ago, as we were trying to get the Major League Baseball All-Star game in Colorado, I decided I was going to weigh in and try to sweeten the pot a little bit for Major League Baseball to bring the game to Colorado. So I said that if they brought the game to Denver, that I would participate in the official Colorado state sport, which is pack burro racing. So they brought it to Colorado, and now I'm going to race a pack burro, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me a little bit more about that. What does that look like?
Well, the history of that is in mining, right? We were a mining state, silver and lead and copper. So a pack burro is like a donkey, but It's trained to carry the mining equipment. So miners would load up all their equipment on the burro and then head up to the mountains and start digging into the side of the mountain to start a mine. So that's the history of it. And they started to race them back in the day, and that stuck. So there's multiple pack burro races that are available around the state. And it's a very long tradition in the state of Colorado, and I'm about to weigh into it.
Will you be actually riding the pack burro, or do you just bet on one?
You don't ride it.
Okay.
The pack burro carries the traditional mining equipment, and then you run alongside the burro. And hopefully, it's my understanding that the challenge is getting the burro to run. So this is going to be interesting.
Wow.
That much I know.
Well, best of luck. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. I'm going to need it.
Yeah. Well, my next question is a little bit more serious, especially in light of recent tragic events. You are a former U.S. Army Ranger. You have a lot of experience with guns and weaponry. You have been outspoken about gun violence prevention, and you have even sponsored some legislation aimed to tighten weapons regulations. Can you tell me a little bit about how your experience and background has informed your work and perspective on the issue today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up a hunter. I started hunting when I was 12. I've owned guns most of my life, still to this day. I'm still a hunter and sportsman. And I, like you mentioned, was an Army Ranger. So I served 3 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've used, military style assault rifles. I've had them used against me. I know what they're capable of. But I also represent a community that's been disproportionately impacted by gun violence, from Columbine to STEM school to the Aurora theater shooting, and of course the gun violence that we see in our community and in our homes and our streets every day that doesn't necessarily get some of the attention that it should. So I take that responsibility extremely seriously, and I don't think there's a week that goes by when I'm back in the district where I don't talk to survivors or families or kids that tell me that they're now afraid to go to school. When they're at pep rallies and there's a loud noise, they jump out of their seats. And that's not the type of environment and community that we need to have. I'm also a father. And I remember not too long ago, a couple of years ago, my young daughter came home from school and said, Daddy, we had a bad guy drill today, and I had to hide in a closet and came up if a bad guy came for me. And that's hard. That's obviously not a unique experience. But I learned in the military, one of the things I took out of that experience was that we have rights as citizens, but the corollary of rights are duties and responsibilities. Citizenship and being a member of a community and a society means we have responsibilities to each other, duties to each other. And when we have 40,000 Americans dying a year because of guns, nobody can say that we are fulfilling that responsibility. We are failing each other because there are common sense things we can do that can save tens of thousands of lives. So I have weighed heavily into this issue. I've probably talked about it maybe more than any other issue, certainly as much as some of the other priorities, but I'm not going to back down on this because there are things we can and we must do, that we have a responsibility to do to save lives. And I'm going to continue to fight so long as I hold this office in this position. I'm going to continue to try to do some things to save lives.
Thank you very much for your work on this issue. All right, well, to conclude, I'm going to ask you a pretty serious question here. Remember, your constituents will be listening in, so answer wisely. Which landmark in your district do you think most accurately represents it? The 16-foot blue chair in Aurora titled Unglued, the 92-foot tall IKEA sign in Centennial, or I can't think of any other landmarks, actually. What about you?
Listen, I can't take sides on this because if I say the chair, then people in the Southwest will say it's got to be something else. The thing that I love about the district, I'm gonna bring us back to where we started, and that is the diversity in the district. And that is, you go to any part, whether you're in Highlands Ranch or Littleton or Centennial, Aurora, Brighton, Thornton, and every part of that district has a unique characteristic and character to it that's just wonderful. And that's an amazing thing that I can go to a different part of the district and know that there's a unique character to that, and they all have their own sense of place. So there's a lot of really good things. I mean, the chair is definitely very cool, and it's a great photo op. But there's a lot of them around the community.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's all I have for you today. I really appreciate your time and your representation of Colorado 6th Congressional District.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed the conversation. Thanks a lot.
Me too. Thanks.